Presented by RomulusIT.com, offering remote support for common computer problems. This is Landry.Audio. Listen, like, and subscribe. Today, we're speaking with heavy metal legend Max Cavalera. I'm pretty excited about this. I've been a listener of Max and his work for more than 20 years, known for Sepultura, Nailbomb, Soulfly, Cavalera Conspiracy, Killer Be Killed, and now Go Ahead and Die. He's in Phoenix, Arizona, and I'm in the great city of Newcastle, Australia. What's happening with you today, Max?
What's going on, man? Not much, just doing a bunch of press. It's really hot here.
Yeah.
It's about 100, close to 100.
So we're Celsius, so we're looking probably close to 40 or roughly around
40,
that sort of temperature.
40, yeah, it's same as Brazil. Yeah, it's about around 40. It's the beginning of summer here. But yeah, I'm really excited to be doing a bunch of press for this record. Comes out in June. Yeah. Is a record I did with my son, of course. And I did a little bit of research, and I found out that I guess we're the first father and son to do a extreme metal record together. So that's pretty cool. It's like it hasn't really happened before. Not to my knowledge, at least. So that's exciting.
Well, it's kind of it almost seems like the Cavalera family is setting itself up to be almost like this dynastic family, more in extreme music, I suppose.
Yeah, we didn't really plan like that, but it just kind of went that way. Gloria always talks in those terms. I'm making an empire, and all this, and I'm just like, oh, you just do whatever you want. I'm just coming along for the ride.
So that's an interesting talk. I mean, I've got a lot of questions I want to ask you today, but I mean, at your age now, you've crossed the border over 50, and I think when I started listening to metal in my teens, classic rock would have been stuff from the 70s. Zeppelin would have already crossed into that territory, but because metal kind of was only getting established then, it's a little bit interesting to see senior citizen headbangers these days. How much longer do you think that you carry on with this, and especially with bands like Metallica? Still, you go see them live and you think about the material that they're trying to play from, like And Justice for All and Master of Puppets. It's realistically, how long can you continue to do that for?
Yeah, I mean, I ponder on that question a little bit, but I kind of think that, I don't know, like the older you get, the stuff that was heavy
is not heavy anymore.
It's not heavy anymore.
No.
So that makes it so we can do this for a lot longer. So like the Sepultura records are still they're still heavy, but compared to some of the heavy stuff that's right now, it's light.
Yes.
It's like those records have become light, which is incredible to me. It's like insane. As far as like age, I was never really bothered by it. I hopefully I'm gonna age gracefully, wear my white hairs with pride. Like, took a long time to get this white hair. It's a badge of honor. I'm proud of this. It's encouraging to see guys that older than me that's still doing, like Rob Halford, Judas Priest, Bruce Dickinson. They're pushing towards 70. Yeah. I'm 50. They got 20 years on me. Ozzy. So and I think a lot of my peers, we're reaching the same age. Like a lot of the guys. If you talk to the Cannibal Corpse guys and Slayer, Metallica's a little bit older. I think Metallica's probably 10 older than me, a year older than me. But a lot of the guys, Cannibal Corpse, and those guys are around my age, and they're still making great records and going on tours. So I can see this going. I'm an alcoholic, so I would not I would not take the Slayer route. As much as I respect what they did of retiring, I just can't do it. Not for myself. I just can't. I'll drive my family nuts. they won't be able to put up with me, and I'll get in trouble. And so music keeps me out of trouble.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I'm loving the new Corpse material. I think Cannibal Corpse as a band, I think they continue to sound better on each record, and possibly Eric Rutan's got something to do with that. But I think their releases have just been, well, now that he's on this one, just been absolutely killer. Cool. So in terms of music, then, we've got this new band, Killer Be Killed. You're doing that with your boy as well in the band. Do you? It's interesting. Are you taking a backseat on this one? Were you integral to the writing process? Was it just the ability that he had access to you, how you got roped into this band?
Yeah. So we started because of pretty much a little bit because of COVID, because we were one of the last bands touring. We were on US tour with Soulfly. And then we went to Mexico to do a festival. And it was like the last festival on earth. It's like, I'm looking at the crowd going, holy shit, this is probably going to be the last time we're going to see 40,000 people like this for a long time, because everything is being shut down at that moment, And then it hit and everything shut down, and I went home. And, I was trying to like not drive myself nuts, but I was going nuts with nothing to do. Like when you tour for so long like that, and all of a sudden you don't do anything, it mentally, it fucked with my head. It's like, what's going on, And then my son was escaping COVID. He was in Florida, so he came to Arizona. We have a house in the desert. He went and went to live there. So I started going there and hanging out with him, listening to music. We already connected through metal, and we start writing. We start sitting down writing jams, and just came out killer, and we made a record out of it. So I have to me, I think the Go Ahead and Die album is the record that saved me through pandemic. My sanity.
Multiple musicians talk about that. They get tired of being on the road after a while because it's so repetitive, and right. They can't. And then they get home, but after about a week of being at home, they go, "I can't do this. I need to get back on the road again." And it's just almost the grass is always greener type situation.
Yeah, when you're on the road, you complain about being on the road, and when you're in a home, after 1 week at home, you complain about the home. It's incredible how that is so true. But I decided to do a couple things to take a little bit up on my time. So I did this thing called Max Tracks. It's like, really me and my wife did it together. She is my cameraman. She holds the phone and films me on a living room playing guitar. And I go through all my history of riffs. And I talk about them, how I wrote them, what inspired me. And that it is all the way back from Sepultura days. I go as early as 1984, 85. And that's a lot of fun because it's live on Facebook. It's free. Nobody has to pay anything. You can just watch it. It's just me bullshitting in my couch. I don't have a filter, so I just say whatever I want. And and it's a lot of shit's funny, and they're being funny. They're laughing. And I'm going through the riff, show them the riff, and telling a little bit, it was kind of like my wife's idea. She's like, man, those are all awesome riffs that you wrote. You should talk about them. You should show your fans you made them. And we decided to create like that, and we call it Max Tracks. And it's every Tuesday, every Saturday, and became a little bit kind of like a job almost, but I didn't want to do nothing really high tech special. I could have full on went into YouTube and did a big YouTube production, but it's not really what this thing is about. It's about just hanging out. It's like if you came to my house and I say, "Hey Max, how you play Roots?" I go, "All right, sit down. Okay, this is how you do it."
Yeah. One open.
Yeah. What are you thinking when I was thinking about this, man? Yep. Get the Right Safe Red vocal line. Too sexy for my friend. That just bullshitting. But we get a lot of people watching. I think sometimes about 5,000, 10,000, which is really, I heard is really good when you get that many people watching. And then they all get like, they leave comments, and I read some of the comments later, and I get a kick out of that. That's pretty funny.
It's so on the new album that you're doing, we got an advanced copy. I've had the chance to listen to a couple of tracks. It sounds noticeably different from some of the other bands between like Killer Be Killed, Cavalera Conspiracy have, you know, a little bit of a mix.
Yeah.
This has got much more of an era that I would have grown up listening to, of that kind of traditional 90s death metal vibe, and some older crossover, maybe hardcore and crust punk in it to a degree. Was that sort of sound dictated by you, or how did that come about? Because it sounds very much like you know, I kind of put it more towards that sort of, you know, obituary type category from the turn of the 90s.
Yeah, so we joke about it. Me and Igor, my son, we call it, we are making caveman metal, you know, because it's kind of caveman, you know. It's like, it's really not sophisticated. It's not technical. It's very brutal, raw, and not really worry about being perfect. It's not about that. It's got that spirit of the death metal. And to me, it's funny because my career started with that. The very first recording, Bastard Devastation, it was extreme metal. You know, it was like black metal mixed with a little bit of death metal, and so it's kind of cool too. I went around the world, I changed styles, I play with everybody, to go back with my son and go back to the extreme metal. I love it. I love the record. I love the vibe of the record. It was fascinated the way it was created, because it was kind of like a ritual. I'll go to our house in the desert. We will listen to music first for inspiration. So we would jam hours of Discharge and Extreme Noise Terror and Obituary and Death and Celtic Frost. And then we go jam. We go in a room and jam with the drum machine, make the songs. And at nighttime, we watch horror movies, black and white, Universal.
Okay,
You know,
yeah.
monsters. We have a big collection, so there was enough for a whole month to watch. So we did that every day, and it was a lot of fun. The creation of the record was the most fun experience. It was like, and I joke, like, you know, father and son, they do projects like building Legos and playing football and camping, and we made a record, you know. But it was to like bond. It was like to bond with your kid.
Yes.
We did a record like to bond, and it's really cool that came out the way it did.
And so I got to ask you, why so many projects? I know, going back maybe about, you know, I'm trying to remember when artists started doing solo projects, and I guess I kind of start remembering about like when Phil left Pantera to go do Down on the Side, maybe around the mid 90s or something. But it seems like once Napster hit and digital music came out, it seemed for a lot of artists creating multiple bands was the only way to sustain themselves. I can't imagine that's the same situation with you. So what do you feel is sort of the need to continually do new projects, as opposed to trying to turn, you know, one of your bands into I guess a larger behemoth?
Yeah, so that's the thing. I'm not interested in that. Like, I really don't really care much for making like one thing only the biggest. I don't know. I don't feel very attracted to it. I'd rather do other stuff with other people. I kind of enjoy that more. It's more, I don't know, more fun maybe, because every project is different. Killer Be Killed was a blast, man, doing stuff with very different guys like Troy and Greg and you know, Ben, and you know, I do Cavalera with my brother, and this one was with my son, and we got a drummer that we never played with him before, Zach. And so I had to talk about this with the producer from Soulfly record, Ritual, Josh Wilbur, because he told me that he thinks I confuse the fans with this project. The fans get confused. Which way do I'm gonna go? Hold on. There's this band, there's that band, there's that band. which one I'm gonna grab it.
I think it's
All
very
of them.
cool. It's closer to an era that I remember because, like I said in the intro, I got into you in the late '90s, so you had already split from Sepultura, but it was before you had done Soulfly. So I remember that kind of new metal period.
Yeah.
Pants that look like dresses a lot better while I was wearing those to school. And this is more
Oh yeah.
the first step of the of when I was dipping my toes into more extreme music of, as I said, like Death, Morbid
Yeah.
Angel, Cannibal
Yeah.
Corpse, Six
Yeah.
Feet Under.
Yeah. And yeah, like I said, I have weird, funny ways of looking at music success. Like I'm not attracted to the Grammy award and the being the most popular thing in the world. I'm not attracted to that. Like those things like means I make jokes about it. Like Grammy is like hemorrhoids. Eventually every asshole gets one. uh, you know,
Right.
and because of that, I like to just do whatever the fuck I want to do, man. And like right now, my one of my old dreams was to make a cool metal record with my son, um, and I was in the position of doing it. And even if nobody liked it, I would have been, uh, for me, it would be very satisfying that I did that with him, and I know that we shared that and we had that experience together. Um, but I think people are gonna like it because that era of music, it's cool. It's like it's a fun time in metal. That the whole extreme death metal era. It's really, and it's really good right now. There's a lot of great bands at the moment playing that stuff. The underground is on fire right now, man. It's crazy. So because of that, I'm a simple man. I like to collect headphones and go on with life. Like I don't care about having the big car and the big house. Like none of that shit, man. So I don't know. Because of that, I think it's easier for me to go from band to band. I prefer doing that. And Soulfly is always there anyway. So I can't get rid of Soulfly even if I wanted to. It's always there. Um, you know,
You make it sound like that's a problem, like it's always there. Every couple of years, I'm forced to get back in and do something with it.
Yeah, yeah. It's not like that. I enjoy Soulfly, man. Soulfly is cool. Um, it's just this is just so different from Soulfly. Just Go Ahead and Die, especially. Um, it's so much more back to that.
Well, even the
grunt.
cover artwork is very 80s hardcore. It's into
Right.
that punk category. It definitely does have a different feel to it.
Yeah, everything we did for the record, from artwork to the aesthetics to the lyrics, even our logo was created by Jeff Walker, which is Karka's guitar
Yeah.
player. He created the logo for us on his own. We didn't ask for it. He just did that, which was like, fuck yeah, that's killer, man.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff. But yeah, man, like I got into metal because there's no rules. If people are gonna make rules, then I'm out. I don't want to play metal if it's gonna be all these fucking rules. And that's the problem with a lot of generation and a lot of these internet kids thinking there rules when there's no fucking rules. There's no rules, man. So it's like nobody's gonna tell me I cannot have more than one band. I love guys that have projects. Mike Patton is one of my heroes. Fucking Phil is great. I love Scour. Like
Yes, I think that's the best
Scour.
one of his side ones too. A little bit of sort of
Right.
black and grind stuff.
Right. Yeah. So and I love doing Killer BQ. It was a lot of fun. So I just decided to do another one, and I give zero fucks for people that don't like it or complain.
Fair enough. Cool. We've been talking about how this project kind of fits in the pocket of more traditional early death metal, and I just want to use that as a segment to talk about it. Roughly about a month ago now, another one of my favorite bands on the planet is Entombed, and I'm a big fan of when they made that move into that death and roll category. And LG Petrov passed away after a fairly sort of brief bout with cancer. And I think I was a little bit disappointed because to me at least, it didn't feel like there was a lot of media or attention around his death. And I put Entombed into that like top 5 bands that I listen to and enjoy. Yeah, you have any experiences with them, or I guess stories or interactions with LG in the band that you might want to mention?
Yeah, so I met LG a couple times. Always really fun. Um, Always drinking and getting and trying to get you to drink. Also, remember the last time was, I think it was the Return to Roots backstage. Uh, but he actually came to our bus, and an army jacket, and he had a beer in each pocket and one in his hand. So he had 3 beers with him. And I go, "Hey, LG, what's up with the beers? You know?" And so I don't have to go back to the club and get more. We can stay here and talk, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, man, makes sense. But I was like, but we have beer in the bus too. I'm gonna drink those too. I'm like, cool, man. You're welcome, you know. And then we start talking about totally non-metal things. We start talking about soccer, you know.
Yeah.
And I never knew he's a huge soccer fan. And then he shows me the logo of his soccer team on his leg. It's got the logo of the team on his legs, a Swedish team. I don't know anything about it. So he's like, of course, I'm Brazilian, so I love soccer. And I start talking about, my team is Palmeiras, and then eventually the conversation turned back to one night where we met Pelé, the god of football.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that was in 1989, and the 4 of us, the Sepultura guys, got to meet Pelé in a nightclub in New York, and we finally got to talk to Pelé, and Pelé asked, "So what's the name of the band?" In Portuguese, talking to us, and I say Sepultura, means grave. And he goes, "That's a horrible name. Your mother must be very embarrassed." It's like, oh man, we just got lectured by Pelé on a band name. but he loved that story, man. He's like, "Oh, you guys met the god of the god." He's like, it's equivalent of meeting Elvis for a rock and roller, or meeting Muhammad Ali if you like
That's what I was gonna
box.
say. Yeah,
So he was a very very interested, and it was cool to see in his eyes he likes soccer that much. And always talk also about Brazil soccer always being really good. So yeah, he was amazing, man. When he died, I think I went back, and for like 2 days that's all I listened to was all Entombed. And I mean, like the first day I jammed all Left Hand Pat, but then I just jammed Wolverine Blues, because I'm like you. I like both phases, man. I mean, both are amazing, and that is a hard thing for a band to do. That's I kind of like compare to what Sepultura did with records like Arise and Chaos and Roots.
it's a big
It's
change
like,
between the two, from thrash to slower,
right,
more
yeah,
yeah, breakdowns and that sort of thing. Yeah.
right. And if you can do it and you do it right, and you be successful without selling out, and which I think the way they did it is like that. It's a huge thing, man. It's hard to do it, and they did it right. And you're always gonna have those great death metal records, Left Hand Pat and Clandestine, but they weren't satisfied with just that. They wanted other things. They were hungry for more, and they wanted to show the world more. So that's what I like the other records as well. I don't know. I don't. If you press me, I might have to say Left Hand Pat might be my favorite one, but Wolverines is a fucking amazing record too. So yeah, it was really sad when he passed away. And as far as like the media, yeah, there wasn't much attention paid to it, man. Because I think just because it's underground. Um, I just did a thing for Obituary. They're gonna put a book out, and I wrote the inner notes for the book. And in my mind, Obituary, if they would have a death metal hall of fame, Obituary should be there within the originators, like together with Possessed and Death, because they're early, because right before Obituary, they were also Executioner, which was also death metal, and they're great, and they're a great band. They're still together right now, kicking ass. Um, but yeah, the media never does it right by us artists, especially like if you're more like underground.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, it's sad, man. That fucking cancer that gets a lot of people, man. That shit's evil, man. It's like we had some cancer in our family. Gloria's brother and her dad both die of cancer. Uh, we have a friend that has cancer right now, so I'm not taking any chances. Like I'm doing all my tests in June, um, doing all the shit, colonoscopy, all the bullshit that you got to do when you turn 50.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this
Let's
is
do it all.
it's a good segue to ask you because again, as I said, I've been a listener for a lot of years. So I remember when Soulfly kind of I guess that there was an overarching philosophy, and that became a lot more religious. And so I have, and I remember your early Sepultura records where we still got the upside down crosses. Then we go through where we kind of become the new metal band, and ultimately, Soulfly begins to drop into a lot more religious or God loving aspects. And I just wanted to ask because I've seen other interviews with you. Where you talk about, I guess how you become a believer, but it's kind of like you're Christian, but you're not at the same time. So I just wanted to understand your, I guess, philosophy on that these days, because that leads into questions about, cancer, the afterlife, and all these sorts of things.
Right. So yeah, so that's the thing, man. Like I always thought um, my mother was always really spiritual. She was part of it- it's a Brazilian religion called
Yeah.
Candomblé. It has roots in Africa and it's huge in Brazil. A lot of musicians are part of it, and they identify each other by wearing this kind of a necklace that everybody wears it. Um, anyway, it's huge in Brazil. They say Brazil is 90% Catholic, 110% Candomblé. Um, and I grew up with that, with rituals in my house, stuff like that. And I went to that phase, of course, the black metal, extreme metal phase where we first started. We're rebelling against everything. So that's why we had all the inverted crosses and all that.
Bullet belts
Um,
and leather at that time as well.
yeah, bullet belts made out of batteries, double A batteries,
I
and
remember that story. That's right. Yeah, you said you couldn't get
yeah,
hold of it.
yeah,
So a
yeah.
long time ago. Yeah, yeah.
All kinds of mischievous shit like that we did back in those days. I think one time we went to a cemetery and we broke in the cemetery and we stole two skulls from people that couldn't pay for the grave.
Right.
And then I ain't taking my shit just home. My mom will kill me, man. And my friend, like, I'm not taking this shit home. My mom will kill me. It's like, what the fuck we gonna do with these fucking skulls? We got two skulls in a backpack, and we're walking around the city. So we go in this big highway. We go in this bridge, and we just drop the skulls. They just splatter like coconut on a highway, and that's the end of it. It's like what a waste of afternoon. But it was just punk rock,
So was there an
teenage
awakening
thing.
for you? Did you have kind of a moment where a lot of people who who get on board with the train later, and that there seems to be a spark or something that kicks it off for them.
Yeah. So I think, like, my dad died when I was 9, and I was really rebellious, and I wasn't really rebellious against God, but I was rebellious about the situation. Like, why did my dad had to die? Like, I didn't understand that, and I became very angry, I'm a very angry teenager, and that led to those records. Um, and then in '96, um, Gloria's stepson Dana, which was one of my closest
Mm.
friends, he died too. And at that time, I was already working with my mom in spiritual matters. So I don't know if there's a moment where I had awakening. It was more like gradual, a little bit. I think during Chaos AD, I was already talking a lot with my mom about this kind of stuff, and and then and then Dana died, and then I don't know that really, um, we felt his presence a lot in the house. Like lights would come on in the middle of the night,
You're right.
and we kind of knew it was him. And it was like really crazy stuff like that. And then when I made Soulfly, the name came from this belief. It's a tribal belief that when you're making music, um, you make music for your ancestors that are no longer here, that die. So a lot of the music is for them to give you strength to get through life. That's the original belief of the word Soulfly. Um, and I guess but I decided to create almost like I'm gonna make my own religion. I don't trust any religion. They all have fucked up shit on it that I don't like, uh, and including Christianity. It's like a lot of like pedophile priests and all that bullshit. It's like,
Mm.
come on, man. Uh, so I think I just decided to. I'm spiritual, and I do believe in God. Uh, and so I decided to dedicate the Soulfly records to God, which I thought was kind of a punk rock thing to do because in metal everybody's so anti-God. It's like, okay, I'm gonna piss everybody off by putting this
Yeah, yeah.
dedicated to God thing on the back of the record. I always like the punk thing to do, kind of like attracted to that philosophy. I don't know. Um, I when I think about the Bible stories, to me, like Jesus hang out with lowlifes and prostitutes a lot, and they don't talk much about that um, on TV and stuff. But if you
Well, in
do a little
America, you guys have a
research,
lot more. You guys are much more involved in that mega church culture than we are over here. So I think it takes on a
yeah,
little bit of a different beast as well.
man, and that's why I think a lot of those anti-Christian bands. I don't blame them for being so pissed off at Christianity because of that kind of shit, man. That's when you watch like Jimmy Swaggart and those motherfuckers on TV asking for money, driving Cadillacs,
Well,
and
it's funny because when you listen to traditional black metal, the Satanism that they're on about is all belief in self, which in itself is a religious virtue in and of itself, is to overcome through belief in oneself.
right.
I think there's kind of a lot of things in common between the two sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. So I just decided to, I guess, you create your own religion inside of you and you believe in that. And because it's kind of I think it's good to have something to believe in to um, I don't know, to have
Aspire
something to
to.
look, to be inspired, to I don't know, in a moment of struggle, you kind of like have faith on something that's gonna work out. But yeah, I also, again, spiritual is also connected to nature, and I love nature, and I think you find spirituality on nature a lot, and I really like that side. And I guess that's also found in black metal as well, with
Yeah.
the connection with nature. Um, so I really don't know, but I really hated that phase where some people thought I was a Christian metal band. I was like, I'm not a fucking Christian metal band. God damn it, you know. Um, so I went uh, to the point of like wearing like a lot of battery shirts, just you know,
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
show people, I must be the worst Christian ever, um,
So
like
how,
one
how
of
do you
those.
get into it? I remember in the Soulfly records, there's I think it's in the liner notes as well. There's a lot of mention of Zionism. So I guess it's interesting just to get your perspective on Israel and the Israelites, because that would be much more of an Old Testament sort of thing.
Yeah, that's just my curiosity, man. I always had a curiosity, this huge curiosity of um, places and
Babylon comes up in every record as well, almost, I think.
yeah. I almost think like sometimes I wonder, like in my, because I kind of like to believe in reincarnation,
Mm.
and maybe I already been to Babylon in a long lost life along the way, and maybe that's why I'm attracted to it. I'm not sure why the attraction comes, but it's there. There's definitely an attraction, and I love documentaries and movies about these biblical places that people go to, and they do explorations, and they show these places. Like I was in Berlin with this the designer of the Soulfly records, and Eliran Kantor, and he took me to the Bergman Museum. They have the Babylon gates that they discovered in Iraq, and they brought from Iraq to Germany. Why Germany has that, I have no idea. But it is in Berlin, and those big blue walls with lions and dragons and cool shit, man. It's cool. It's like you let your mind drift to that shit. I like that, and it's, I think also a lot of imagery. The imagery of this stuff is cool. It's pretty metal.
Yeah.
When you look at some of the imagery, we use a lot on Archangel. There was the Ishtar, the Ishtar Rising Sun logo. It was on the CD. And on Prophecy, we had the Lion of Judah on the cover. Of course, my son's name is Zion, but I changed it to Y because I'm not Jewish myself. So I didn't really want to be, misunderstood. So I changed it to a Y. And one of my best friends said, "Did you name it Zion because it spells noise backwards?"
That's kind of cool.
And I was like, "Dude, you have too much time in your life to think about shit like that." No, it was not what I named him Zion, but that's cool.
With the albums as well, with the new one that we're on to, what was interesting to me is it's being released by Nuclear Blast, and I know Monty Connor is with Nuclear Blast as well, who was kind of the big A&R name during the Roadrunner period when we think of like Ross Robinson and those bands and everyone who got signed through the 90s in there. Have you dealt with him again, or is that relationship still going on in terms of how he works through Nuclear Blast at all?
Yeah, so we still he comes to every show. Lately, we've been dealing more with Gerardo. He's more of the metal guy in the LA offices. But Monty's still involved. It's cool. Monty, I like Monty a lot, man. He's just a cool guy, and he helped me a lot on my career. He's the guy that when Beneath the Remains, Arise didn't sound that good. He was the one that had the idea to involve Andy Wallace on the mix. So Andy Wallace ended up mixing those records. They sound much better. And then, of course, getting Andy to produce. First he got Scott Burns to produce Beneath the Remains. He also got Andy Wallace involved for KOZD, Ross Robinson involved for Roots. Yeah, many dealings. I don't really deal with Monty on the kind of like manager product area. That's more Gloria, because I want to keep myself as pure as I can, as much as I can. The business will drive. I think you'll take the whole fun out of it, and I'll become a very bitter person if I do the business. Like I see some other musicians becoming businessmen, and you're not the same guy. You don't have the same passion that you had when you first started making music, which is really for the music. And I want to keep that intact and sacred. As much as I can protect that, I will protect it. That's why I let Gloria deal with all the business. So she deals more with guys like Monty and Gerardo and all the negotiations and all that. And I stay more on the music side. On the music side, I'm totally immersed on that work. But as far as business, I don't like to.
Well, you have to put me in touch. I'd love to talk to her. I'm sure there's a heap of history that she'd be willing to share and talk about.
she's a fountain, man, a fountain. Like I'm telling you, like when she dies, if she doesn't put that in a book or in a documentary, it'll be a huge loss because there's so much cool information
Mm.
through the years. You know, there's a lot of funny story. Like one time she made a tour called New Titans on the Block, and it was
All right.
Sepultura, Napalm Death, Sacred Reich, Sick of It All, and she got sued by the New Kids on the Block. That's amazing, amazing. You got sued by New Kids on the Block. That's incredible, man. And you know, she kicked Vanilla Ice out of our bus once. You know, he was hanging.
Is
He was
this
hanging out.
metal Vanilla Ice or rap Vanilla Ice?
It was rap. It was back in the, I think it was back in the Sepultura days, and he was hanging out in our bus, and she's like, "Everybody, yeah, you get the fuck out of the bus," you know. And later we found out there was Vanilla Ice. Like, holy shit, Gloria just kicked Vanilla Ice out of the bus, man.
So I
so
have to ask you then, because you're mentioning her. I know you've done this topic to death, and I'm sure that you don't want to talk about it anymore. And I've read heaps about it, but I remember the acrimony between the breakup of Sepultura. You know, you and Gloria went out on your own, and at the time, all the media that I was reading by the remaining members of Sepultura, in effect, blamed Gloria for the breakup because she was the manager, and they were saying she was getting divisive between the two of you. Can you, again, I've never heard something definitive on what happened in that space. What was kind of going on, and I guess that caused the rift in her involvement between trying to manage and create a legacy for you and I guess the rest of the guys in the band.
So yeah, I mean, you know, I think she was used as a scapegoat. You know, they needed somebody to blame for the whole thing, and she was like an easy target. Let's just blame on her. It's easier than blaming on Max. You know, for example, it's easier to blame it on her. The reality of it was her contract was done, so she was never really fired. Like those guys, they always go on their interviews and say, "Yeah, we fire her," you know, but that's not true. Her contract was finished, and then something happened that really bothered me, which was the death of Dana, and flying back from England. Ozzy arranged us, you know, put us on a private plane to get back home. You know, I did not do the show, the Donington show. And on the way back from England, when we were in the airplane, we found out that Andrea's wife tried to bury Dana before Gloria get home, before we got home, tried to bury him, tried to steal his body from a morgue using a fake name and bury him. So by the time we get home, everything is done. You know, there'll be no funeral. He's already buried, so life can go on. And that just like, it hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, hold on, man, like time out. What's going on? You know, this is really bad, because if it was any of you guys and you lost your kid, I would have been there for you. I would tell you take a whole year off. Don't come to work. We don't need to work next week. We don't need to work next month. We don't need to work for the next year. Take a year off to grieve your son, or more if you need. Maybe you need more than that. And it would have been fine with me. You know, that was my position. And they didn't took that position, and really hurt me and made me question the people I was making music, including my brother, you know, because he was part of the mutiny. Because it was like a mutiny. It was like the three of them against me. And she came to me and she said, "You should go with them. You know, you, for your career, for the best of you, you should go with them." And you know, I'm done. I'm out. My contract is done anyway. I have other things I can do, but I couldn't do it because of the way that it was handled. It was so wrong. And then and that was the main coffin, like nail in the coffin, was because of the death of Dana and how they reacted to that, and made me really question the people I was sharing my life with. You know, it's like super hard. And
do you think this was done to just try to keep you on the road or keep the Sepultura machine going? Is that why you who was kind of undercut in this fashion?
That would be my best guess, and like I say, like if that would have happened to them, if Igor had lost a kid or Andreas lost a kid, because they both had kids back at that time, I'll be the first one to say, let's take a year off, man. It will not kill us. Trust me, this band is really strong. We have a lot of fans. Grief, man. Now you should grieve, get the grief out of the way, and they will come back and do more stuff. And but also there was other things going on at that time that were really, it was already going on that way, man. It's like it's like a cancer, like you cannot get rid of it. They were already talking behind our backs about different stuff, about getting a big manager in LA, and yeah, all that stuff. And I've always been the kind of guy like, all right, you came up in the trenches, with the crew and the manager, and when you all were fucked and didn't have money, you stick together. And once you become successful, you do not just tell all these people that help you, fuck off. I'm gonna get all brand new great people because now I'm successful, and you forget the little people. That's not me, man. So I had a hard time with a lot of that, and it was a hard decision, and almost made me quit music. I was so disappointed. I didn't want to make music anymore, so I immersed myself in drugs and alcohol, until I started making music again with Soulfly and Deftones and stuff like that.
Okay. Just a couple more questions for you before we wrap up then. I want to talk to you kind of about the concept of woke culture, which seems to be now infiltrating even heavy metal. So again, the allegations are there. I don't know anything about it, but you would know that Marilyn Manson's had some pretty bad allegations come out against him. And then I think even the other day, I think he's in Arizona as well, there seems to be a Dave Ellefson sex tape has somehow floated itself online. What do you think about all this? I mean, I guess the culture of rock and roll, which is what it is, but now how the application of woke culture is now trying to, I guess, infect itself in an area that has always been kind of anti-establishment.
Yeah, so I'm not the right guy to really ask that, because I don't really even have much knowledge of it. I kind of like really stay away. That's why I'm not like, I don't have a phone. I'm one of the few guys in the world that doesn't have a phone. My son told me that the other day. He's like, that you're probably one of the few people in the world that doesn't have a phone. You realize that, right? And I was like, yeah. And I like that, because I don't like the goddamn, my wife always looking at the phone. My kids, we go to dinner, everybody's just like, like this thing is controlling your life, man. I'm old school. Talk to me in person.
Fair enough.
So I don't know, man. It sucks. That's it's creeping into metal, because, like you said, metal. I guess you should be kind of like you didn't expect those kind of things to come into the metal world, but I guess it does. I think you just gotta be like careful with what you say a lot, because of the internet these days. A lot of time you can say something and people would grab it and misconstrue it, say something that you didn't really say, or use your words against you. That's like the worst, so yeah, it sucks, man. Because the even the process that the thought in your mind that you got to be careful when you talk, it's already a bummer. That's a bummer.
Yeah.
that you got to have that, man. Fuck. It's like, yeah, I don't know. It really sucks.
So I guess the last one before we wrap up today, I know that you're still very, very popular, you know, in South America, and you have a lot of fans listening. You know, specifically Chaos AD really got into the political spectrum, and I just wanted to get your thoughts and if you pay any attention to you know, Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro and sort of the I guess his opinions on COVID, because this seems to be a big thing as well with a lot of people, of whether or not it's real or not. And he's quite a divisive figure. And I just wondered if you had any opinions on him.
Yeah, so I was watching. I watch a lot of whenever I can, you know, artists, Brazilian artists, in podcasts and things like that. And it was really shocking to me just to hear them say in Brazil there's families that are being divided because of this guy, you know, because half of the family like him, the other half don't like him. They divide. They don't talk to each other. They, you know,
He's effectively Brazil's Trump for people that,
right,
that don't know who he is,
right,
I suppose.
right. And I'm the first one to say this is, I know for a fact. Almost anybody that gets in power in Brazil, it immediately goes into the corruption. It's almost like it's a virus. It's like a disease. It's like a president's disease. You cannot, like, Brazil cannot have a good president, even if it tries to, it can't. But it seems like this guy's even worse because he's kind of like Trump. He embraced the negative stuff with proud, you know, that, you know, proud to kill people, proud to destroy the Indians, you know. It's like that kind of like scary because he's proud of those things, you know, and then the people that goes with it. But to me, like, I don't know any politician. I never met any politicians. I don't want to meet any politicians. They're all scumbags. The way I look at it, like, none of them really want to help. A lot of them just end up. There's so much, man. It's not just the guy. It's the system behind the guy, you know, that goes with the guy. It sucks that it's dividing families and doing so much damage, just like Trump did so much damage here. You know, and that's like I sang that on Primitive back in 2002. Back to the Primitive. Fuck all the politics. And I was referring to all the politics of music, real politics. You know, I really think that's a career where you really barely ever really look out for the people. You get, you know, corruption. You start corrupting, and you can get rich from it, and you just do for yourself, and that's it, man. And in the meantime, all poor people still dying. The problems are never solved. All that, you know. So yeah, it's they say Brazil is going to be a great country in 300 years from now.
All right.
Hopefully I'm reborn, and I'll be born again in 300 years from now. I'll be in a good place.
When I come back to, I guess we'll do a similar interview and I'll ask you again.
There you go. There you go.
All right, Max Cavalera, thank you very much for your time. All the best today. New album is Go Ahead and Die, and it's very cool. So go check it out, and all the best to you and your family.
Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it.
Cheers.
All right.
This episode is brought to you by Romulus IT, offering fast, affordable remote support for common computer problems, including troubleshooting, health checks, virus removal, and software support. Visit romulusit.com to get your computer back on track.